EU has agreed to put the armed wing of the Lebanese group Hezbollah on its terrorism blacklist at a meeting of foreign ministers in Brussels. London insisted on sanctions after blaming the group for last year's attack on a bus carrying Israelis in Bulgaria. European leaders are also concerned by Hezbollah's role in the Syrian conflict, where it's fighting alongside government troops against rebels. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now live from Beirut by Dr. Franklin Lamb, who's an international lawyer and political analyst. Thank you very much for coming on to RT this evening. Firstly, what do you think is the motive behind this? Why are the European governments labelling Hezbollah a terrorist organisation?
Well, there's two motives. The fundamental or the immediate motive that changed the situation from last Thursday, when the British and the Americans leading this cause lacked 8 votes. So what happened between Thursday and Monday morning to make the immediate cause of the EU acting? What happened were dozens and dozens of phone calls, according to congressional sources this afternoon, from Washington to European foreign ministries. And the message was this. The background was that the Israelis, Libni, has been squeezing Kerry on the upcoming Palestinian negotiations. Kerry wants her at least to make the noises, the Zionist regime to make some noises that they're serious about this peace process, that'll make the White House look better. So the trade-off was to take away the headlines from the EU boycotting Israel. You remember that they're going to boycott even academic things. All the aid projects in the West Bank are being boycotted. They're joining the sanctions, the boycott. This upset Israel no end, as you know, last week. So to change the headline, the Americans squeezed the Europeans and said, look, give them this throwaway, this easy tactic. Go ahead and line up for votes, and they squeezed them. The Americans squeezed the Europeans to give them this vote. The vote is symbolic. It doesn't have a great deal of significance other than public relations. And of course, in that respect, it's important. But as you noted, I think there are 2 exclusions. They're still going to allow dialogue with Hezbollah's political department, just not their military wing. Well, that's nothing new. How many European countries has been talking to the Hezbollah military wing? They're very secret. They don't talk to anybody much. So that's no change. The other thing is that the EU has pledged that it's not going to affect the government of Lebanon, but that raises very interesting questions for, among others, lawyers. You've got the Hezbollah now, supposedly a terrorist organization, but they dominate what? The cabinet. And also the legislature,
so how can
the executive branch.
How can you distinguish between the two? How can you distinguish between the government arm and the terrorist arm? How is that possible?
Well, you can't, and that's the point. That's why this has only symbolic significance. Watch what happens. I don't think the Europeans are going to end up sanctioning anybody. It's too complicated. It would take a battalion of lawyers to figure out the language and how you draw the line. What did the EU do? Did they declare Lebanon a terrorist wing because of the connection? Hezbollah supports the military. We've seen that in the last several months. Does that mean that the Lebanese army now is a terrorist organization and the Americans and the others won't give them even shoelaces anymore? I mean, it raises lots of questions. I think what we're going to see is a European do nothing. They got the headline. They took the pressure off the Israelis for the action that the EU boycotted the occupied territories, and they've changed the headlines for a few days, and that's, I think, what the deal was. But I don't think it's going to have any impact on Hezbollah, which is a fundamental resistance organization, and it relies on the support from the people and not the Europeans. But what is going to happen, the word this afternoon out of Syria that could happen, the Assad government is, as most of us believe, is going to stay. There's going to be $500 billion worth of contracts let to rebuild that country starting within the year. Guess who the first 28 countries are going to be lined up to get aid? Let's see what happens with some of that. So they may
well,
expect
let me just pick you up on that.
Especially, yeah.
Are you saying that the EU has got more to gain than lose by severing its contacts now with Lebanon and effectively Hezbollah? Are you saying there's a financial motive for this?
No, the opposite. They have every reason, and I think they will, to have good relations with Lebanon and also Syria. Syria is going to hand out some major contracts, and if they've, as the EU has now condemned Hezbollah as a terrorist organization, or at least it's a military wing, and it's almost impossible to distinguish one from the other, the Europeans may not get some of those contracts, and the price to get those contracts, I think, is to make sure that they don't do anything.
And very
that they
quickly,
don't sanction any banks, that they don't really, yeah.
What will be the reaction from Hezbollah, just quickly?
My reaction is it was a feel-good operation to please the Israelis in the White House, and that's about it. We're not going to see much consequence coming out of it. Their heart wasn't in it, but they caved to UK and American pressure.
OK, thank you. We have run out of time. Thank you, there. That's Dr. Franklin Lamb, an international lawyer and political analyst. Thank you.